Hey there, girlfriend. Ingafay here. Super excited to be with you again today. I'm so excited to share with you another coaching girlfriend, Deidre Martin. She is going to share with us the rise of storytelling and marketing. I'm sure you guys want to know exactly what that is because marketing is everything for your business. Without further ado, we will talk to Deidre and we will see you on the other side. Well, hello there, Deidre.
Hey, Inga, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, it's great to have you, girl. Well, before we get into the rise of storytelling and marketing, I want us to learn more about you, who you are, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Well, my name is Deirdre Martin. I am based in Kilkenny in Ireland, and I am marketing and branding strategist, and I help clients, I help service providers mainly to master their message, really get clarity on what their brand is all about so that they can stand out, win more clients, and be seen as thought leaders in their field or their industry, whatever they do. And so I work with clients one-to-one, and I have a group program as well. Yeah.
Well, awesome, girl. We are so excited to have you here. Now, I know as well as you know that branding and marketing is everything for your business. So, if you were talking to someone that was just starting out, what would be some tips that you would give them to start off with their branding and their marketing?
Oh my gosh, that is actually such an amazing question, and one that often gets overlooked, Inga, because often what I've found is people are in such a hurry to get their website built and get on with their social media profiles, and they go out and they pick these fabulous colors and they come up with
Right.
a name for their brand. And then I've seen this happen recently with two clients. Actually, that was exactly what they did. One client spent €30,000, which is probably about $40,000,
Oh,
on getting a
wow.
website done, right? So serious mega bucks. And what ended up happening was their brand name that they had chosen was already being used by an international corporate in
Oh,
a
wow.
completely different way. So there was
Hmm.
one word in this brand's name that resulted in them literally throwing away €30,000 down the drain. So
Wow.
the first place to start is with a ton of research. Before you get going on anything, do some research. Look at your brand name. It's not just about colors and websites and fonts and all that sort of good stuff. Whilst that's important, actually what's really fundamental is, why are you in business beyond making money?
Right.
What is your reason for being? What is the legacy you're going to leave behind you? When you've worked all the hours in however many years, and your grandchild is sitting on your knee and they're like, hey grandma, what were you doing working all those hours? You've got a story that you can tell them about the difference that you made in the world. And so when you're really attached to what that difference is and why you and your brand exists, it's going to make it so much easier for you to get out of bed every day, to say goodbye to your kids in the day, and equally when you're telling those stories to your grandkids in however many years. So really it starts with why. Why is your brand in business? When you get clarity on that, then it's okay, this is why I'm in business. What am I going to do? How am I going to do that? What tools, techniques, and things do I need? And so it is about business planning to a certain extent, Inga, but
Right.
beyond that, what happens is when you get clarity on that, then you can decide, what are your offers going to be? How or where are you going to market? And who is your ideal client for
Right.
the service or problem that you can bring to the market?
Right.
So when you start with who your ideal clients are, when you start with why, that really helps you get under the hood of, what are the problems that these people have? What keeps these people awake at night? What are
Right.
their frustrations, irritations? What makes them pull their hair out? What makes them, do their little happy dance? What gets them so excited? What makes them happy? And when you really understand all of those frustrations, irritations, aspirations, all of those things, then what happens is you can create offers that become irresistible to those
Right.
people. And you can create a brand, colors, fonts and website that's going to resonate with that audience. So for example, Inga, you're a prime example. Your branding is fabulous and it's ideal for your audience. Even your logo on the screen here right now, pink is perfect for your audience because you serve women. Your font, you have a little kind of cursive font. That's ideal because that's quite feminine as well. Whereas if you had big colors, let's imagine they're big blocky colors, they're maybe more masculine and might suit a more masculine audience. But equally, when you get clarity on your why, your what, your how, and your who, what ends up happening then is you can show up in a way where you can create messaging and tell stories that's absolutely going to resonate with them. So not only are your offers irresistible, but your message is irresistible too. And ultimately, what ends up happening is you become magnetic. People are like, ooh, I want some of that. How do I get some of that? That's exactly what happens when you start with those foundations.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you mentioned the power of having your own brand, because oftentimes the people in my audience, a lot of them are direct sellers, MLMers, and network marketers. So sometimes I see a lot of them saying that I'm XYZ consultant, but at the end of the day, when a person buys from you, they're buying you first. So can you talk a little bit about the power, or really the importance of building that know, like, and trust factor when it comes to building an audience and a community?
100%. And another amazing question, let me just add, because it is a case that people buy from people. And, you know, not just big brands. And if you think about some of the biggest brands in the world, for example, Virgin, Richard Branson has a bigger personal brand than Virgin. Or Ronaldo. Ronaldo is a soccer player, right? Ronaldo's got a bigger personal brand than all of the European football teams combined. So building your personal brand is really important and something that should be separate from the company as well. And there's a couple of reasons for this. And if you think about it, if you're an employee, for example, if you're an employee and potentially you don't want to stay with your current employer forever, but your identity is so closely correlated or directly aligned to that company, well, then how are potential recruiters or other prospective employers going to see how you could be of benefit to them? Okay. So that's something that can happen when you are really closely affiliated with a company. So what's important to determine here is, well, why am I doing this? And do my values align with that of the company? And then how can I kind of portray myself as an individual who is an advocate for this particular company? Because if you think about it in the sense of, again, if you're Richard Branson, because I love him, right? Richard Branson, he's a great guy to follow on Instagram. He shows amazing pictures, but it's getting that behind the scenes. It's getting to know people for who they really are. It's the face behind the brand, because people don't buy from faceless corporations that they've never heard of. They buy from the people that they know, like, and trust. And so that means showing your face. It means, you know, telling stories that are going to resonate with your audience so that they really get to know who you are. And so when they get to know who you are, then that creates a deeper connection than what any big brand could potentially ever have with a client.
Exactly. Another question I wanted to ask you that I've talked about a lot is when people say that their target market is everyone. You kind of mentioned that a little bit in your intro when you were talking about how important it is to know your target market, to really know your niche. Can you talk a little bit about that and how everyone is not your client?
Yes, absolutely. So if you try to target everyone and offer them everything, and, you know, everyone is everywhere, what ends up happening is you end up targeting no one.
Exactly.
And this actually happened to me in my business, okay? And this is what I teach people how to do, Inga, seriously. This actually happened to me in my business. And what happened to me was, when I started my business in year one, my business was going to be very much about customer experience. And I was going to train companies about customer experience. And so I did do that. And that was amazing. And it was COVID, it was mid-pandemic, we were in lockdown. And the only businesses that were allowed to open were professional service providers. So businesses like solicitors, attorneys, engineers, accountants, all those types of businesses. So my business coach said to me, Deirdre, those are the businesses that you have experience with. They're open right now, so let's provide a service for them. So I was like, okay, that makes total sense. And so that was my niche, or my audience, if you like. But then I wanted to take my business online. I didn't want to be geographically confined to the small city that I live in here in Ireland. And so because we were in lockdown, I thought, okay, well, how can I expand that? Because I want to go global, right? So how can I do that? And so it was a case of, things started to evolve. And then, all of these amazing ideas that I had, I was firing on all cylinders. And I had clients all over the world, which is fantastic. But I got to the stage in year two where I was like, okay, I don't want to do this customer experience thing maybe in the way that I had been doing it before. And what I realized was, with customer experience, it was a lot of small businesses that I was working with. And they provide such fantastic service. I mean, like, amazing service. When people say you need to go that extra mile, well, these types of companies and businesses that I were working with, they were going 10 extra miles every single time. So there wasn't much for me to teach them when it came to customer service. But where they all struggled, all of them, was around branding, their brand strategy, how to position themselves in the market, and then how to communicate what their offer was. And so when I realized that, and I started to evolve in my own business, so that I wasn't I was going, who am I going to serve with this? Is it that same audience, or is it somebody else? Can I serve all of the coaches worldwide? Can I serve whoever? But what ended up happening, Inga, was that until I kind of said, okay, I serve service providers. Until I narrowed it down to, I'm going to serve service providers, I've got a bit more of a psychographic behind that. And what I mean is, I serve service providers who tend to be very data-driven, as you might say in the US. They're people who focus a lot on numbers and money, and they're very logically brained. Okay. So it's more of a psychographic, but these people are really ambitious. They're high achievers, and they work in a particular way. So it's not so much around, they're aged 40, they live wherever. It's not so much about that. It's much more so about their behaviors. So I say that I serve service providers, but actually the people in my messaging that I'm speaking to are high achievers. They're 6, 7, 8-figure service providers, or aspiring to that and capable of achieving it. So in my messaging, when I create content and I tell stories in my marketing every single day, those are the people that I'm talking to. And what happened to me during that phase, when I was switching and I was thinking, I can serve all of the coaches everywhere. What ended up happening was I wasn't attracting anyone. And so my sales went down, down, down. The number of sales calls being booked in my calendar went down, 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 down. And it wasn't a case of I had peaks and troughs. I just had down, down, down. That's the way it went. So the minute that I went, okay, Deirdre, you've gotta like put a stake in the ground here. You've got to decide what direction you're going and who you're going to serve. The minute that I did that and my messaging evolved to meet those people where they're at, that was exactly the shift. And then since then, things have been going up and up and up and up.
Interesting.
So the thought that you can serve everyone, everywhere, and offer them, 57 solutions to the different problems that they have, It just doesn't work. And there's a great guy, I don't know if you've ever read the book or come across him, Alex Hormozy. He's written a book called 100 Million Offers. It's like 99 cents on Amazon Kindle, right?
I got it.
He's amazing. But
He
in that
is.
book, he talks about one offer, one audience, one platform. That's literally all you need. And
Right.
I 100% am proof in the pudding. It has worked for me. So yeah, definitely you need to like narrow it. Doesn't need to be so narrow. And a mindset shift that I had with this, Inga, is that when I narrow it, there are enough people in the world for me to serve to make me rich 10 times over, you know, where my calendar is constantly full,
Right.
even when I narrow it that small.
Right.
And so, you know, that, as I say, it's a mindset shift. So just take that away. There are enough people in the world for me to serve, even when I go that small, to make me rich 10 times over, and literally to be oversubscribed.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because I think people have a tendency to think if they narrow it down that they're going to be missing out on somebody. But I totally agree with what you said. Totally agree. So when you were talking, you said that your target market are high achiever people making 6, 7, 8 figure income. So my first question would be, if they're making that kind of money, I wouldn't think they would have an issue with marketing at all. So can you give us some insight in that? Because you would think with that kind of income, all would be well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, great question. And you know, I actually did recorded a testimonial video with a client yesterday, and a lot of my clients, as I say, they're in that space. What's happened to them is that they communicate their message in a way where they're really clear on what they're saying. What happens is when they communicate their message, they're clear on what they're saying, but their audience isn't necessarily. So very much what tends to happen is a lot of the business that they get comes from word of mouth, because these are the people who are going like those 10 miles beyond what they need to do. They give that exceptional service. And so that's where a lot of their business comes from.
Interesting.
But to grow and get to that next level, they need to shift or adjust their messaging, because what they think they're communicating, what makes sense to them, just doesn't work. And so it's the curse of knowledge. And I've had a client, a fabulous Canadian client, who is like a book editor, a journalist. She has worked as a content writer in a digital marketing agency. And, you know, the feedback that I got from her was that sometimes you just get so close, you get so close to it. What was the phrase she used? You know, when you're inside the jar, you can't see the label on the outside.
Yep, exactly.
That was exactly how she described it. And so that's why those people, they need that little bit of help. And as well, what can happen is as your business evolves, so does your brand. And maybe the direction in which they're going has changed. Or like me, the people that they were initially serving, you know, that's evolved from where they are. And so it's how can they communicate this new thing now in a way that's going to connect and resonate with their audience.
Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So that goes to show that, you know, word of mouth is great when you're building your business, but if you really want to scale it to the next level, you really got to take in consideration your storytelling and your marketing strategy on how you're going to actually do that and brand yourself accordingly with the evolution that you've made with your business, similar to what you described. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure.
And you know, if you were to think about that, if I can just hone in on that storytelling piece, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
A couple of tips that I have for this is, you know, there are really 7 elements to a fantastic story. And there's a couple of ways to be able to deliver these 7 messages, if you like. But the first one is, you know, when you're telling your story, you need to position your ideal client as the hero or the lead character in the story, because the message has to be about them and not about you. But what happens is your ideal character, your ideal client rather, they have a problem. They have a problem and you've got the solution to that problem. Okay, so you need to talk about that problem, and that problem can be something that they want. It can be the thing that they type into Google or ChatGPT, as the case may be now, when they're looking for a solution. It's what is the problem they're looking to solve.
Right.
And then when you enter as the guide, the solution, the person who can help them overcome or solve that problem, you need to enter into the story in two ways. And one is by demonstrating empathy. So by saying, I get it, I've been there, I understand. It's using terminology like that in your storytelling messaging, but also demonstrating authority by saying, you know, I've done this, I've overcome this. This is a framework that I use to help my clients overcome it because it's worked for me. Or, you know, and it's demonstrating your authority, your credibility, so that people will trust you. But then it's giving them a plan. Plan is next. And the plan has to be so simple that they say, oh my gosh, that's so easy. Yes, I can do that. Because if there are like 55 steps in the plan, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's like climbing Mount Everest. Never going to do it, right? And then you need to call people to action. So calling people to action is not like you want to learn more. It's like, buy now, not do you want to learn more. You need to be direct with that call to action. And then you need to paint a picture of, you know, when people take that action, what's going to happen? Is it going to end in success or failure? And what does that picture of success look like? How will my life be different if I go and I do this? Or what's at risk if I don't? And that's one that really gets overlooked quite a lot. One of my clients who's an executive coach, she introduced that section into her marketing message. And straight away, she got a major uplift in her client. She was doing a webinar presentation that I helped her go through this part with. And she got like an uplift of 30% in her conversions at the end. But introducing, this is what's at risk. You know, if you don't take action, you're going to be stuck in the same place. What's that going to cost you? And the cost can be financial, emotional, relational. You know, it can be health. It can be any number of costs. And it's about highlighting what's at stake if you don't take action. So when you introduce all of those elements, that's what can help you craft and create an amazing story. But one other hack I'm going to share with you and your followers and listeners today is to think back to, you know, certain times in your career or your life where something happened that has left a lasting impression on you. And that could be that pivotal moment that changed your mindset, or it could be, you know, something that just caused you to change or move in a different direction for some reason. What was that? And then when you talk about that in your messaging and how you can relate those messages back and create empathy in the stories that you tell, and how you can use that to solve the problem, then all of those 7 elements I've just mentioned, you can weave into the story to create marketing messages that will really profoundly resonate with your target audience. So it is about that empathy and that connection and emotions. People are creatures of emotion. They buy based on emotion. Later on, they'll go home and they'll justify their purchase with logic. But they'll buy based on emotion. So you need to use what you have, what's in your arsenal, those things that have happened, that have changed you, that have shaped you, that have made you the person you are today. And then, you know, weave those into your marketing message every single day. And I'm telling you, it's magical.
Yes, I would totally agree. Yeah, I could see us just thinking from an MLM or direct seller, using that process that you just mentioned to do our sales and our sales closing that we do also in our recruiting, to tug on people's emotions about, okay, so if you don't make this change today, then how is that going to affect your future? I mean, if you want to continue going to a dead-end job that you know you don't like, but you're just going just to pay the bills, do you want to continue to do that kind of thing? That, I think that's spot on that you mentioned that, because for whatever reason, people have a tendency to say, okay, I want to learn about something, but then it's time to really encourage them to take the action, because the action is what's going to transform everything. If you just say, oh, okay, I just learned that was great. Like you said, you don't want to say learn more. No, you don't want to learn more. You want to act now.
Yeah.
For sure.
And like, you know, if somebody says to you, learn more, or like, you know, what's the other one? Yeah, do you want to learn more? Or there's another one, and oh my gosh, my brain just won't think of it right now. There's another one I see so often, and it's like nearly sleazy, you know.
Right.
It's so much more impactful if you're direct, because people won't take action unless they're told what to do.
That's
right?
That's
you just picture yourself in the supermarket or the grocery store, and like you're at the top of the queue, you're at the top of the line, and you wait for the teller or cashier or whatever to say, next, please.
Next. Exactly. Yep.
Right? Or till number 4 is open, go to till number 4. And the reason being is we're accustomed to not doing something until somebody tells us what to do.
Exactly.
So you're not being sleazy, you're not being salesy when you say click here to buy.
Right. Exactly.
So do more of that.
Right. Exactly. Or for those that are not necessarily doing something online, you know, here's the agreement right here. We can have you sign now. We can get you started today. So yeah, for sure. Well, Deidre, thank you. Go ahead. You got something else?
I was just going to say, or let's go ahead. You know, in the sales conversation, like, let's go ahead. Ready to go ahead? What would stop you from going ahead? Ask them. If they're like, no, I want to think about what would stop you.
Exactly.
And ask those questions. Not asking is going to let your customer, your client walk away. Don't let them do that.
Yes. Thank you. That was some golden nuggets today, girl. So before we end today, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you have some kind of freebie for us, and tell us a little bit about the freebie so they can get in contact with you. And then I'll go ahead and put your website up, because I'm sure that's probably where it is.
Thanks, Inga. So I have something. It's really simple. This freebie, it's not rocket science, but this is what helped me go from charging my first client €50 up to charging my latest clients €15,000. So it's a brand strategy checklist, and it literally is what it says on the tin. It's a checklist. It's all of the things that you need to have in your brand strategy to make sure that you can really transparently convey who you are, what you're about, how you serve people, and all of those things. So really easy to access. The website address to access it is www.deirdremartin.ie/brand strategy checklist. That's
awesome. It. I put your website up on the screen, but we'll make sure that we put that brand strategy ending on that so they can just quickly just click and go straight to it, because I know people want convenience, so I'm all about that. So we'll make sure that is done so you guys can go directly to her website to get that information. Deidre, thank you so much for your time and attention today. And for those of you that are watching, we want to thank you for watching us today. I'm hoping what Deidre shared with you will resonate with you, and that'll allow you to then act to do something different so it can transform your business. Thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks, Deidre. Bye for now.
Bye.